answering your questions and diving a little deeper. This is the Midweek Rewind.
All right, well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the Midweek Rewind. My name is Matt, and I'm excited to spend some time with you today. So thank you, whether you are joining us live or watching, listening later. As always, we're grateful for some time with you today. So we've got Brent back with us. Brent, you were gone last week. You were here, but we took a little break from the normal thing. We did the questions with Mark and John last week. So thank you for being back and joining us today.
Glad to.
So Brent, we just started this new mind game series, and it's still coronavirus season. It's still just the world. It seems like every day something new happens. It's just crazy. We don't know what to expect. And you and I were just talking, Brent, that the topic of anxiety and stress and worry, it's kind of been on your radar about something that you've been wanting to talk about for a while now. And we didn't know all this stuff would be coming when we first started planning out the year. So, well, let's just dive right in, Brent. So why is this something that's kind of been on your heart and your mind that you wanted to address for a while now?
So when I prepare sermons, I don't want to make it sound like I'm more organized than I am, but I do plan out a basic list of topics or books in the Bible for a year. And I regularly emailed people and said, what does God want to teach us? Where do we need to be shepherded? And this has been a subject, this whole anxiety, worry, fear, regret, all the stuff that just keeps looping. And it when that stuff loops, it drags you down. And so that's been what we would call a relevant reality. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I've had it on the list and it fell now. And so now, like you said, you add in the coronavirus and all the racism and social justice, and our nation's in disarray. And it's like the list is longer than ever before on reasons we should be kind of uneasy. Yep. And so, yeah, we're hitting it with this mind game. We won't solve everything, but trying to help people deal with stuff. Help me, help you. We all need help in dealing with this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that, I forgot to mention at the front, if you are watching live, love to hear from you. If you have questions or if you want to chime in to what we're talking about, just type them in right there on the chat. And we've got it pulled up here. We'd love to talk with you if you've got any questions or comments to throw in here. And so, Brent, the name of this series, like you just mentioned, was Mind Games. Here's the fancy Rubik's Cube that's in the sermon bumper.
Yeah.
I think you were going to share a little something with us here at the very front of the show. Do you want to take it away, Brent?
So we have a phrase, mind games, and you just say those two words and people might think different things. So one mind game, of course, is puzzles or riddles like a Rubik's Cube. It is a mind, literally, game. In a negative way, mind games are what people play with us when they manipulate or they try and intimidate us. And like on Sunday, I think I said, if someone says, if you really love me, you buy that for me, they're trying to get in your mind. Mm-hmm. If someone said, you're always negative and you amount to nothing. Okay, they're getting into your mind and they're planting stuff. They're trying to manipulate. That's the second. A third one is just, whether it comes from other people or not, the looping of our worry or our regret. So that's where we're parking that third one. But I did come up with, well, I didn't come up. I've remembered these riddles. So in days gone by, Matt,
yes,
when our family or friends would travel and we weren't like locked onto a phone or an iPad or watching movies in the car. So this was a long time ago. Mm-hmm. We would pass the long hours with riddles. And so these riddles, I have 3 of them, and I'll just give them to you. And if we have time and think about it, I'll give the answer at the end, maybe, just maybe.
Let's do one today. We'll save some for future weeks. How about that?
Okay. So here's the first riddle, or a riddle for today. A man was at home wearing a mask. Another man was running home. That's it. So a man was at home wearing a mask. Another man was running home. And what we would do to pass the time in the car, Matt, is the other people could only ask yes or no questions. Like, and I'll just give one. Is the home where the man with the mask is that where he lives?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is no. It's not where he lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so people would just ask yes or no questions. So that's a riddle, a mind game. A man was at home wearing a mask. Another man was running home. Figure it out. Okay, now what do we want to talk about, Matt?
Okay, well, if you figure it out, why don't you type it in the comments if you're watching live, and if not, we'll put you out of your misery and let you in on the secret at the end of the episode here. So Brent, again, mind games. I know that this past Sunday you just kind of set the stage for the series a little bit, kind of let us know what we were going to be talking about. We're going to get more specific as the weeks go on about worry and anxiety and stress, and each week we're going to kind of tackle one of those different things. And but this past week you set the tone a little bit with, there were kind of 3 verses that were kind of the anchor for Sunday, and I think they're kind of the anchor for the whole series. Do you want to just quickly run through those 3 verses and talk about those a little bit?
Yeah, real quick. And again, Matt, I am so thankful that our church actually believes the Bible. And I know a lot of people have their perceptions of the Bible, but it really is relevant.
Mm-hmm.
It really is practical. So in Romans 12:2, it says, don't, and I'm going to insert the word mind games. Don't conform any longer to the pattern of how the world solves their mind games of worry and regret and self-hatred and decision paralysis and all. Don't conform to the pattern the world follows for how you deal with the normal mind games that we all have. Be transformed. And that word is metamorphosis, like a caterpillar to a butterfly. You get to a new place, be transformed by a new way of thinking. And so these weeks, we're going to unpack a new way of thinking that is better than the way the world would approach the question, how do I deal with the worry that keeps looping? See, the Bible offers a different way of thinking about worry than the world does. So that's the first verse, Romans 12:2. Don't conform to the way the world deals with the mind game of worry or regret or self-hatred or decision paralysis. The second passage is Colossians 2:8, and it follows right along. It says, don't be taken don't be taken captive by the empty philosophies. Here, now I'm getting caught here. I did this all from memory. I better look it up here. Colossians 2:8. Yeah, be careful that no one takes you captive through those patterns of thinking that the world has. Mm-hmm. So it follows up, don't be taken captive. Don't get suckered into trying to solve your worry issue like the world would tell you to solve the world issue. So that's the first. Don't conform, be transformed, new way of thinking. Don't be taken captive by the world's way of thinking. Mm-hmm. And then the third one is 2 Corinthians 10:5, which part of it says, take captive every thought and make it obedient to Christ. So all of these sermons have to do with what goes on here. Mm-hmm. And I unpacked those 3 verses as kind of the foundation. I don't care whether you deal with worry, anxiety, or fear, or regret, or self-hatred, or insecurity, or decision-making paralysis. Mm-hmm. There is a Jesus way of thinking that will help you gain victory over that, as opposed to a non-Jesus way of thinking.
Yeah.
And so that was I didn't give any specific answers because those are coming this Sunday.
There you go.
We talk about worry and anxiety. And the next Sunday, when we talk about, and the next Sunday, I'll say where we'll get really specific.
And kind of speaking about that, you quoted our good friend Craig Rochelle. Hi, Craig, if you're watching. And these are kind of the anchor, just kind of big ideas that you're kind of holding on to too, that most of life's battles are won or lost in the mind. And that's, if you kind of take time to think about that, I think it's true that most of the troubles that you and I, everybody deal with, if we can get our mind in the right place, we'll be able to conquer them. Really, like it's not necessarily a physical thing. It's all what's going on up here.
Which is his second quote, which you should look down on your notes and read his second quote there. Something about your life moves in the direction of your strongest thoughts.
Yep.
So not only
the life you have is a reflection of the thoughts you have. Your life is always moving in the direction of your strongest thoughts.
Yeah, and we all know this. If you think that you're ugly and you're a terrible person and you'll never amount to anything, that's kind of the direction your life's going to go.
Yeah.
Okay. So the taking captive every bad thought and making it obedient, not be taken captive, thinking a new way about So
and kind of as a transition here, so the way that most of the world thinks about these things, that we're not supposed to do it like that. We're supposed to be transformed and do it differently. I mean, the anxiety, again, you and I are talking this morning, it seems like anxiety is just at an all-time high. Like even that word, we hear it pretty often, and that wasn't the case even, a handful of years ago. And do you think, Brent, that do you think it's true that people are more anxious, more stressed, more worried today than they were maybe, let's just make it easy, like a generation ago? And do you think it's like, is it our fault or is it our culture, or how do you feel about all that?
Well, what I'll say for the next few minutes has a little asterisk by it that says you can't sue me, and this is just an opinion and I can't prove this. Okay.
Got it.
So if anyone says life is harder today than it used to be, it's a subjective answer. Okay. So I admit, my shortcoming rather easily. I do believe that more people, if asked, how stressed are you? How anxious are you? That more people today will rate themselves at an 8 or 9 or a 10 than they would have a generation ago. Whether they're more stressed or not, I don't think anyone can answer. But more people will say they are more stressed today than they said a generation ago. I think that's objective.
Yeah.
More people register themselves as anxious, highly anxious today, than people registered themselves as anxious 30 years ago. I really believe that.
And what's your guess? Why do you think that is?
I think one is the world is more complicated. I think there's more pressure in decision making because there are more options. I think that parenting has changed. I don't mean this all negative, but there has been a dramatic swing to safety and security. And out of that, people are always just, am I making the right decision that's going to be the right decision? And so I think the world is far more complicated. I think communication is so instant and worldwide. Everyone has more options. Go to a restaurant today.
Yeah.
And there are 75 choices there. And so the world is more complicated. So that just leads to a greater pressure of making the right decision and living the right way and all of that. So I think that's true. And I do think there's been a cultural shift towards safety and security that has made us more cautious, insecure, uncertain of what we should do.
Yeah. And I wonder if people from, 50, 70 years ago, whatever, if they heard us talking today, they had stress too. They had pressure too, but it's just different stress and different pressure. And I think the pressures that we face now, they are more mind stress, more mind things than maybe they had to deal with. Like when society was just agricultural, if they didn't get rain for a few weeks, they were stressed. And you and I, the weather doesn't affect our day-to-day life as much as it did back then. Or they didn't have to stress as much about, even like clothes or what to eat. Like they didn't really stress about what outfit they were going to wear, what they were going to, where they were going to go for dinner. Like there's just more decisions. And I wonder if just the quantity that you and I have to deal with, like our minds are constantly making decisions when generations ago, they just didn't have to do that. So I wonder if it just kind of builds. And then when we have big decisions to make or big problems to face, our mind is already weary from all these little decisions. And that makes sense to me that they just add up and it causes us to erupt at some point.
I agree. Social media, TV. So what do you wear?
Mm-hmm.
Like what clothes? That's far more complicated now than it used to be.
Yeah.
Because you see so many different options and so many advertisements, and the trends and fashions are changing far more rapidly than they used to. And so we were even talking earlier of the pressure that has come out of the texting world.
Mm-hmm.
So we have, I text all the time. And so when I say we've raised an entire generation, I mean, I'm among that. I'm 57,
Mm-hmm.
but certainly the young adults have only grown up in being able to fully script their communication,
Mm-hmm.
erase back, come find the right word. And so they text the exact message that they want.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They take a selfie, and there was a day, you don't even remember this. Oh, you do. When you actually had to take pictures with a camera and you couldn't see what it was.
Yeah.
You had to take the roll
Mm-hmm.
over to the photo company or Walmart, and then you wait 3 or 4 days, and you now see how the pictures were.
Right.
You see that what it is, it is.
Mm-hmm.
So Joan and I had all of our wedding pictures taken
Mm-hmm.
blind. I mean, the photographer took all the pictures, and we had no idea if we had any good ones, if our eyes were closed or not.
Right.
Okay. So in the texting world, where you can script the perfect answer,
Mm-hmm.
and in the selfie world, where you can take 13 pictures, to get the exact one, your head is tilted with your girlfriend next to you, and the wind was blowing her hair. Okay, I don't have that problem. But you now have a higher expectation of having the exact right text,
Mm-hmm.
the exact right image, the exact right picture. And so we now feel a different level of stress in communicating verbally.
Mm-hmm.
Before, you didn't have texting. You had to kind of hem and haw on the phone. Now we have people who really, really struggle with communicating a hard message verbally because they have been doing emails and texts, and they've always been able to present their best picture. And now in the moment, in real time, that adds tremendous stress to do it right. I think there is a pressure to produce the perfect decision every time.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't exist because it wasn't even closely a possibility, a remote possibility.
Mm-hmm. It's funny, you and I are even facing that a little bit I guess next week when we come back to the live services. We've had 15 weeks where if you or I or Kim or whoever makes a little mistake, we can start over, and then what we're currently putting out on Sundays looks pretty good because we can go back and fix every little mistake. And that's just, again, a blessing and a curse of the world that we live in today, is we feel this pressure. Since we can go back and do it again and make it better, we can, and we do. And so it makes it harder and harder to be okay with the raw first draft, just because of the world that we're living in. So while we're here, Brent, you mentioned briefly that this next Sunday you're going to talk about worry and anxiety, and that's probably the biggest one. I mean, we all have stress and regret. I'm not exactly sure what all the topics you're going to cover are, but I think worry and anxiety is kind of the bedrock that all those kind of build on. So you want to spend a couple minutes giving us a preview of what we're going to do this upcoming Sunday?
Yeah, I'd love to. We're looking at two passages, and they're both brilliant. Matthew 6, a very familiar one where Jesus says, don't worry about your life, what you'll eat, what you'll drink, what you'll wear. Doesn't God just care for the flowers and the grass? And, if he does that, you're a lot more valuable than them. So don't worry. Okay. Right. It's easy for me just to tell you, stop it. It's really hard to stop it. Yeah. But the gem that we'll unpack in Matthew 6 is a big step toward winning the mind game over worry, is putting the things you're worried about underneath your desire to seek first the kingdom of God. And so here's the thing that I'll try and explain better than I'm going to be able to now, but this is just a preview.
Sure.
If your expectation, you're worried about finances, you're worried about your job, you're worried about your daughter's health, you're worried about whether your kids are going to turn out, you're worried about, if your top priority connects worry with solving the problem, that is, your top priority is to solve the problem, you're never going to conquer worry. The way to conquer worry is to say, actually, I'm not so concerned about the solution that's cause of the problem that's causing the worry. My concern, be a good Christian while I have this problem. That putting first things first, and we'll unpack it, is a huge step toward conquering worry and anxiety. It's putting the solution underneath the higher calling of saying, whether or not I solve the problem, I'm going to be a good Christian, whether my daughter's health is good or not, whether my kids turn out or not, whether the finances work out or not, whether the cancer diagnosis comes good or bad. And I know this leaves people hanging, but that's the first passage. It's putting first things first as a huge step for diminishing the worry factor in our life. And then the other ones, the line I'll use is, what you feed grows. And there are a couple verses in Philippians 4 that said, present your prayers and petition to God with thanksgiving, peace of God will come. But then the very next verse says, whatever is pure, whatever is good, whatever is noble, whatever is kind, dwell on these things. If you feed your worry will grow. If you feed God's goodness, that will grow. And so these are the two principles we'll unpack. One is put first things first. As long as you expect your problems to be solved, you'll keep worrying. You got to put that underneath your commitment to be a good Christian in the midst of the problems you're facing. And then the second one is, what you feed grows. And up here, Matt, if you feed worry and anxiety and self-hatred, and that's going to grow.
Yep.
If you feed faith and trust and hope and all the, and we'll talk through them, that's a mind game. It's a decision that we make. But those are the two things for Sunday.
That's good. And going back to the social media thing, that's a great example, I think, of people seeing what people are feeding. Like if you just scroll through Facebook, some people are feeding their own fear, constantly. They're making the problem worse without thinking about. They're not doing it on purpose, obviously, but they're doing what you just said. They're feeding the thing that's causing them to fear even more, and it's kind of a silly cycle I think a lot of us fall into. But speaking of that, I don't want to throw those people under the bus without throwing myself under the bus. Brent, you and I have talked, and we had a staff meeting earlier this week where we took some time to just share with each other and to pray. And I mean, this has been a hard season for everybody. And even though you and I were still healthy, as far as we know, we don't have COVID. We still have jobs. We are white men. We are not struggling like a lot of people are struggling, but we're still struggling. And I think it's kind of helpful for people to know that, I mean, people may not be too surprised to hear that I'm stressed or worried, but I mean, Brent, you too. You know the Bible, you're the one preparing these sermons, but this has been a rough season for you too, right?
And I'm going to share some of my, I don't know whether they call them insecurities or worries or the stuff that I continue to battle
Mm-hmm.
in the mind games of what I actually worry about. I know what the answer is. I mean, I have steps I can take. I'm going to present some of those. But plain and simple, it's just a battle to
Mm-hmm.
stay disciplined in doing the kinds of things that are a new way of thinking that will actually work.
Mm-hmm.
I just fall into old patterns of thinking, and I end up feeding my worry, and it just loops. And so, yeah, sometimes they put us up on a pedestal, and we do struggle with a lot of mind games ourselves. And sometimes standing up on stage on Sunday, I know I look more confident than I am, and I'm not trying to present a me that I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
But this Sunday, yeah, I'll share some of my worries that may or may not, they will surprise some people.
Yeah.
It's a battle.
Mm-hmm. And we talked last Sunday, well, I guess 2 Sundays ago, to those counselors, and they had a lot of great insight. And last Thursday, we talked to Mark Olsey again. And one of the things I'm just reminded of is the idea that it's okay to not be okay. And all of us, I heard someone else say this week, you and I were talking earlier, all of us are normal people feeling unnormal things right now.
Yeah.
And we're all doing our best. I really believe most people are good people trying to do the best they can right now. Obviously, we all sin and all that, but we're all just facing weird times that none of us have had to face before. And so we're doing the best we can to fight these mind games.
And I worry a lot because we are trying to lead a church into uncharted waters.
Right.
We're trying to lead a church into a place we've never been before.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be really overwhelming and lead to a lot of insecurity and lack of confidence and looping. I mean,
Yeah.
Winning the battle in the mind is not an easy thing, but it's where the battle has to be fought, and it's where the victory is won. It really is. So we'll keep hammering at it and do our best.
Yeah, like it's a really important topic, and I know that on staff we've done a lot of research about Gen Z and millennials and all that stuff, and it's only an issue that seems to be more and more prevalent. So I'm glad we're talking about it, and I think it's kind of cool timing that it happened to drop on our schedule right now, because we need it now more than ever to talk about this. So
absolutely.
We'll start to wrap up here, Brent. Anything we didn't get to today that you want to hit before we wrap up here?
Yeah, I want to give the answer to the riddle.
Well, I was going to prompt you to that next, but anything else before we get to that?
No, that's all I'm concerned about.
Okay.
Just the riddle.
Okay, well, give us the riddle.
I hope that people are excited about this. Is our last Sunday online exclusively. We'll keep going online. I know there will be a bunch of folks who it's not out of fear and all the bad stuff, but they're just not ready to come back. I'll be very curious. Sunday's the 28th is going to be a great day. Whoever comes. I think we'll have a good crowd, but it's going to be good. I'm ready to get back. This Sunday is our last Sunday of exclusively online.
Mm-hmm.
And new times on the 28th.
On the 28th, yep. And we've got a letter and an email going out. We're going to do some videos next week, so you'll hear much more about it. But this Sunday, still online only, same times. So
yeah.
All right, well, give us your riddle, then we'll wrap it up, Brent.
Okay, the riddle that would have been solved only by yes and no questions is: a man was at home wearing a mask. Another man was running home. The answer: it was a catcher at home base in baseball, and a runner was stealing home from third base.
There you go. There you have it.
And people actually get that through yes and no questions. It is a mind game.
That's a good one. So, hey, if you're going on a road trip this summer, tuck that one away and keep your family busy for a while. So that's good. All right, Brent. Well, hey, thank you for your time today. Looking forward to a great Sunday. This upcoming Sunday is Father's Day. So, hey, happy pre-Father's Day to you and everyone watching.
And to you.
Thank you. Looking forward to a great day on Sunday. We'll be back here next week to continue the Midweek Rewind, and we'll keep doing the best we can in these crazy times we're in. So, Brent, thanks for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt. You always do a great job.
Thanks.
See you, everybody.
Thanks for everybody watching. We'll see you on Sunday and again next week. Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us today. Matt and Pastor Brent go live on the First MB Church Facebook page every Thursday at noon. If you can't watch live, the archive is available anytime on Facebook, YouTube, or the First MB app. If you prefer to listen on the go, you can also subscribe to the podcast by searching for the Midweek Rewind in your favorite podcast provider. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the Midweek Rewind.